Wake Up Warchant. I'm not going to yell at you to wake up because it's 6 p.m. on the East Coast. It's 3 p.m. on the West Coast. Can you believe that, Corey? 6 p.m. or 3 p.m. over there. Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's always been that 3-hour difference.
I can't believe how life works. We're brought to you by our friends at Zaxby's Indescribably Good. They got some great specials going right now. They've got the party pack for 2. They've got the family pack for 4. I think one of them is like 20 chicken fingers. Imagine that. Imagine somebody coming home with 20 golden fried chicken fingers from Zaxby's for dinner. You'd have a better dinner than I'm going to have later on tonight. I think
that would be the one for the 4.
Yeah.
I think that would be the party pack for 2, 20 chicken fingers. Although I would.
Who knows?
How many chicken fingers, Zaxby's chicken fingers, do you think you could eat if you were hungry and you were trying to prove something to someone?
14. I tried once.
You got to 14?
Yeah.
Wow. How'd that?
I don't know. Maybe 8.
I think I could get to 7 or 8 and still feel pretty good about myself. I think once you get over 10, you don't want to do anything in excess. But yeah, I think I could do 7 or 8 and feel fine.
We're part of the warchant.com family, obviously. Warchant30. That's a promo code that gets you 30 free days of access to warchant.com. So do check it out. With that said, I'm going to hop on over and get the phone lines going on right now. So feel free to give us a call. You folks will drive the conversation. You'll steer it, if you will. 850-792-5730. We'll also take some of your messages on YouTube. You can also text message us as well. We're going to probably at some point have to talk about the stadium, I would imagine, Corey. I don't know if we'll lay out and maybe let a phone call come in here. But I guess let's go ahead and tackle that. If somebody does call in, we'll just kind of wait on that one. I guess that's really the only news of note since we last rendezvoused on Sunday was President John Thrasher, I guess, directing Athletics Director David Coburn to look into the etymology of the stadium this football team plays in. Did that catch you by surprise? I mean, what was, I guess, your reaction when you first heard news of that?
No, it didn't catch me by surprise because, I mean, I've been watching the news and looking at Twitter for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So this is kind of the trend that's going on. What I tried to do is Google Doak S. Campbell and try to what the segregationist comments. And I found a couple, but one was just kind of an article or a book. I think it was in a book about it. Just basically called him a staunch segregationist, but didn't have any real evidence that I saw anyway to back it up. The other one is a direct quote from Doak S. Campbell about, I think it was in the Democrat even, maybe another paper, maybe the student paper, because he was threatening to, I don't know if he was going to expel students or punish students in some way if they went to these, and there it is right there. There it is. Yeah. Sorry, it's not great podcasting, but people can see that. Yeah, he wanted to ban student support of integration. And you can see the date there is 1957. So anyway.
Sorry, this is what makes the podcast such a beautiful thing when we do it on video. I got to run back and do like 2 things at once.
Well, read it. I'll read it. I think I can read it.
Oh, you want us to read it out to people?
Yeah, this was the quote that he said. If they were holding these mass meetings in a juke joint, it certainly would simplify matters, said Dr. Doak S. Campbell, president of Florida State University. I would just put it off limits. But they, and these are the words of the day, Tallahassee Negroes aren't holding their meetings in a juke joint. They're holding them in churches. And Dr.
That's not a quote, though.
No, that's not a quote. That's the story. That's in the story. Right. And Dr. Campbell is facing a decision on whether to ban attendance by white college students at these meetings of Negroes who are trying to end segregation. So that's the one I found.
That's the only one I found as well. Yeah. And it's definitely not a flattering thing. And I'm not trying to defend a segregationist by any stretch. But I did think there was maybe more of a kind of a smoking gun to make this happen. But again, man, with the climate that we live in now, I understand it. I think there's that weird sort of line of, a lot of things are being explained by this action, this person, this thing makes me uncomfortable, to which a lot of people just think that's people being soft, being snowflakes and what have you. But I mean, there's different degrees of things. And I can see how this would play for a significant portion of the fan base, including the folks, the gentlemen that are out there actually entertaining and participating and playing in front of everybody. So I mean, again, I don't know. I feel so detached now as a fan, man. I think I saw somebody who even admitted themselves that they're quite progressive and liberal, and they're on board with all these monuments being brought down and things like that. But to them, they'll always call Doak Campbell Stadium, no matter if it gets renamed. They'll always refer to it as Doak. So I mean, there's even kind of that strand at play, if you will. I mean, I'm just so far removed from being a fan. I don't think it would affect me, man. And I don't even know how much. I love the name Doak Campbell Stadium. Doak sounds really cool. Then you find out that maybe he's got kind of some leanings that were not too radical at the time, but obviously looking back on it, were not very favorable. They were not encouraging positive things you want a leader to uphold in a community of a university. So I mean, I don't know. My heart won't break from it, but then again, I don't know if it's because I'm so far removed. I don't know how many people will truly be upset because they can't call it Doak any longer.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of with you there. It doesn't bother me one way or another. I mean, we're up in a time where every stadium gets renamed every 6 years anyway.
Well, hey, man, let's take a phone call. Let's see what the folks have to say out there. Although the call looks like it just dropped.
You know what I mean? Like, what's Mile High Stadium now? I know it is Mile High Stadium. What is it now?
It was Invesco, and then I don't know what it's been. I think
I'm saying they do this all the time. Make some money. If you're going to take the name off, make some real cash.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, that's easier said than done, I think. Welcome on into Wake Up Warchant Live. Brett, brought to you by Zaxby's, rather. Who we got on the call?
Hey, Aslan. Hey, Corey. It's G, Gator Kirk.
What's up,
man?
What's up, G? What's on your mind, friend?
All right. Two things. One, since a focus of Norvell is the special teams, how well how improved do you think our FSU special teams will be this year? And I couldn't find any information on where Memphis was ranked the last few years in special teams. And also, with Grant leaving, I didn't see LaDamian Webb listed on the roster, so I don't know if he hasn't enrolled yet or if there's something else going on.
I haven't heard that. I thought Manny Rogers was the only player who did not report to campus from the signing class. I haven't heard anything indifferent on LaDamian Webb's status with the program.
Didn't they sign 3 running backs?
I mean, they got Webb. They got
Toafili, is that his name?
Yeah. Oh, Lawrence.
And then Corey Wren, I think, could be a running back.
Thank you, Corey. Way to bail me out today, man.
And I know this 2020 class backwards and forwards. I was acting like I didn't remember how many running backs they'd signed. With can you look up the special teams, Aslan?
I don't think so, man. I mean, I don't have whatever those advanced analytics websites are, man. I don't know how to read that nonsense. I'm not about that life.
You could Google it, though, like Memphis special teams, and see if there's a story about it. While I say this, we talk so much about what the offense is going to do and that the defense should be better because it has a lot of talent, a lot of returning talent, and should be a very good defensive line. And the offense has Terry and Laybourne and Corbin, and it could be good too. We don't ever really bring up special teams like we should because we all have to understand how bad the special teams were the last 3 years, really, but last year and the year before, just nothing positive about them at all, really. If you can make no big returns, DJ had 1 punt return against Miami, and that's the only really kind of memorable return you remember from the last 2 or 3 years. If they're substantially better in special teams, I do think that's a win. That could be a win. I mean, instead of starting every drive inside your 6, like they did basically all of 2018, if you can win special teams, if you're mainly even with the team, I know that sounds like Jimbo speak or just coach speak in general, but if you're good at special teams, if you're top 20-ish, if you have an elite special teams, I think that's the difference in at least another win or two because they can change games. 1 or 2 plays can change a game.
Google let me down. I'm on Pro Football Focus. They actually have a special teams grade, but it's just giving me the loading thing, which is a thing. It's a beautiful day right now on the show, so I cannot see any sort of hard number. I don't know, man. I mean, what have they done that's so? Obviously, the kick returns in 18 was a real big issue, right? They didn't know when to bring it out, when to take a knee on it, and then last year was pretty much all right. We're going to take a knee on it all the time. I mean, goals. Ricky was Ricky. I mean, Ricky was an average collegiate kicker. I think so. I don't think he was any worse than average. Maybe I mean, he won a game pretty much single-handedly as a freshman, his first ever game. So he's always got that in his back pocket. You know, some of the decisions that Willie made, clock management wise, that we talk about the punt against ULM and ultimately didn't cost them a game. So I don't know how much of the success of this team in 2020 in terms of wins is going to be because they'll have improved.
You know how smart I am, Aslan? You know what I did? I don't mean to interrupt you, but I will.
Please do so.
I went to Norvell's bio on Seminoles.com.
Yeah.
It says the Tigers were only one of 2 schools with at least 1 kickoff return touchdown each year from 16 and 19. And their 11 kickoff return touchdowns over that span were the most in the nation. And the 2019 team ranked 2nd in the country in special teams efficiency by ESPN, trailing only Penn State, which hired Norvell's special teams coordinator prior to the 2019 season.
Look at you.
So Memphis finished 2nd. The team that finished 1st was Penn State, who hired Norvell's guy. So that's pretty good. Again, man, a kickoff return can obviously change a game. So that's a big deal. What are we looking at? Is that it right there?
Number 7, according to Pro. I was trying to highlight it, but it didn't work out the way I want to. Number 7, according to Pro Football Focus, Memphis. Actually, you call number 6 because obviously the number 1 team is St. John's of Minnesota, and Lafayette. So hey, we'll put them in the top 5.
Yeah, I think you take out Lafayette and you take out St. John's of Minnesota for sure. And Rice went 3-9.
Yeah.
But look at so for the people listening to this, number 1, according to this metric, and this was Pro Football Focus, like I said, Penn State, who won the Cotton Bowl, finished number 1 last year. Number 1 in this one is Wisconsin, who won 10 games. Number 2 is Alabama, who won 11 games. Number 3 is Notre Dame, who won 11 games. Number 4 is Rice, that went 3-9. Come on, Rice. What are we doing? Number 5 is Memphis, who won 12 games. And number 6 is Penn State, who won 11 games. Number 7 is Appalachian State, who won 13 games. That's not coincidence, right? I mean, if you're good at special teams, like Florida State was incredible in 2013. It helped that they had a lot of future NFL guys playing special teams. But that could be a really big that's the thing we don't talk about enough. That could be a really hidden addition to this program, is just not just being competent on special teams, which has been a while. But if that's a strength, man, I just think you can steal a win or 2 a year at least if you're competent, if you're good to great on special teams.
Good point. Yeah, and I can, and just to confirm, not that we need to confirm G. Kirk's calls, but yeah, LaDamian Webb is not listed on the roster currently. We'll do some digging on that. That gives me something to do tomorrow. Thanks for the call. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no worries. Y'all have a great night. Go Noles.
You too.
Thanks, man. I didn't realize my man Gator Kirk was still on the line.
Look at that, man.
I like that though. He just asked the question and was in let us talk. I really thought I'd heard him click. I thought he'd hung up.
No, he hangs tight.
Gator Kirk, I didn't know you were on the line that whole time. My apologies.
He hangs tight in the pocket all the time. Our calls are phone lines are still open, 850-792-5730. If I even said it, I'm not even gonna lie, Corey. I took a nap earlier, and I pretty much woke up straight from my nap and came and did the show. So I'm not sharp right now. I apologize to everybody.
Can't even tell the difference.
Welcome on in to Wake Up Warchant Live, brought to you by Zaxby's. Corey's listening to you. So are a whole bunch of Florida State fans and myself. Who we got on the phone?
What's up, Aslan and Corey? It's Rocket City Noel Joseph from Huntsville. One more time.
What's good, Joe?
Man.
What's going on, y'all?
Living life, man. Living life.
Living the dream.
I feel you. Listen, I got a couple of points. I promise I'll make them quick. I was looking at some of the old games from last year, particularly Virginia, on YouTube, and I had to say, I said, the next time I get the call in, I'm gonna let these guys know that looking at those games from last year, Virginia, Wake Forest, the games that we lost, I have to honestly say those were not coin flip games. And the reason why I say that is because with better coaching, we would have won those games. I'm just gonna say those were not coin flip games. We were hands down better than all those teams that we lost to, except, of course, your Clemson, your Florida. I think and if we'd had some kind of pass rush, we would have beat Miami. But those were not coin flip games. Secondly, I will say this: if I'm Norvell, the point that I'm putting, that I'm getting across to my players is, I'm going to tell them, listen, until you, I would go back. I would go back and look at the games myself, and then I would tell my boys, listen, until you earn the right to talk trash in these games, I don't want to hear you utter a word of any trash. I don't want to hear you. As a matter of fact, and if I'm Norvell, I'm breaking it down like this. If a guy gasses you for 20 yards, if you're a DB and the receiver gashes you for 20 yards, and the only reason why he doesn't catch the ball is because his quarterback overthrows him, you don't talk trash. If a running back gasses you for 20 yards and gets the first down, and then you finally hit him, that you don't talk trash. Matter of fact, you don't talk trash unless you make something negatively happen to their team on your behalf. That's when you talk trash. Because I got so sick of seeing, I don't know what the heck these guys even felt like they had to talk trash about. Because, I don't know if they thought that talking trash is what toughness was. And it was not. So I'm letting these guys know, look, I don't want to see now, and I'm using the country word now. I don't want to see now word of talking trash until you sack a quarterback, you intercept the ball, you break up a pass, you pick off a pass, whatever, but or you knock the snot out of a running back when he comes through that hole. But if he gashes you or you get gassed in any way, no, there's no need for trash. There's no need for talking trash.
All right. I think that'll go by. I think that'll be approved.
We talked about that a little bit last year, I remember, because, there'd be something like Akeem Dent would make a hard tackle and stand over the guy, but it was in the end zone. And it's like, hey, he just scored a touchdown. You don't get to stand over a guy that's celebrating 6 points on your defense again. And I think that happened against Florida for sure. And it made them, I don't like to say this because they're all great to talk to when we talk to them, but it made them collectively as a team, I think, for a lot of fans, unlikable. Because not only were they losing games that they should win, but then they were talking trash, or like my biggest complaint is when a guy drops a pass or the quarterback severely overthrows them. And this isn't Florida State specific. This is football specific. And the DB does the incomplete pass, the incomplete signal. It's like they didn't have anything to do with that. The quarterback just missed the throw. But I got you. I don't think you're alone in that sentiment, man, at all. I think that was an issue that was brought up numerous times last season.
Right, and because I looked at the I kind of go back and watch the 13 season too. Not to
That's smarter
season because I know it'll be a long time before we get back there. But I was looking at the 13 season. I was looking at those DBs. I was looking at LaMarcus Joyner. I was looking at the defensive line. I was looking at Telvin Smith and those guys. They talk less trash, but they knocked the snot out of it. And those guys were mean, like they were mean, and they let their playing do the talking. And then I look at the, fast forward 6 years later to these guys, and they want to act tough. I don't know who instilled to them that talking trash makes you tough, but no, playing that game and win makes you tough. That's all I want to point out.
All right, Joe. Appreciate it, man. Good looking out.
All right, y'all have a blessed day, man. Love what y'all do.
Thank you, man.
Thank you very much. Yeah, man. I remember, Aslan, you weren't a big fan of that last year. All the celebrating after giving up a 31-yard completion.
I never liked
celebrating when you're down 24 points.
Yeah, I didn't like the pregame dancing. That's what really grinded the gears last year. I don't think we'll see any of that stuff. By the way, to G. Kirk, I'm pretty sure. I don't think the summer enrollees are on the roster. They haven't been listed yet, so so it's not just LaDamian Webb that's not listed on the roster. So I wouldn't panic by any stretch. Like there's several of the guys that didn't come in early. The only people that are on the roster that I can see are the early enrollees.
Early enrollees and transfers that have been.
I think only Devontae Love Taylor. I don't see Mako. I don't think I see Mako.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, Miko Dotson wasn't on there last time I checked.
Let me run over here and grab this phone call. What's going on? Welcome on into Wake Up Warchant Live, brought to you by Zaxby's Indescribably Good. Who's this?
This is Jay.
Jay from Daytona Beach.
What's up, Jay?
Yes, sir.
What's good, man?
How you doing?
What's going on, man?
Hey, the last caller brought up a few good points, but he negated his original point because he said we were better than certain teams that he named that we lost to, but good teams don't do those little things that he talked about.
Yeah.
Celebrating after a 20-yard pass completion just because you tackle a guy on the 5-yard line. And I kind of think the highlight of those bonehead plays was the well, maybe not, some would disagree, the Boise State game where Levante and Dontavius didn't recover the fumble, and like you look at guys, that was just a catastrophe. But you look at guys like they like forfeit the spring semester. I'm going to work out for the draft, and as a fan base, we love the players, but we know deep down inside, like, this guy's not going to get drafted, and we're not naming any names. But what players have to understand is, if you just do things like recover that fumble or make basic plays that a team like a Rice or Appalachian State would make, that's worth more than you working out with Tom Shaw or doing all these, taking the semester off to get prepared for the draft.
We like good mechanics. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, this team made they shot themselves in the foot several times, and it wasn't just last season. I mean, Virginia game, was it Robert Cooper who had the personal foul penalty on one of those drives where they just kept marching down the field, Virginia on Florida State? So it's guys that aren't going to be here any longer, guys that are still here.
Characteristic of him.
Oh, yeah, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus. I'm just saying, but there was an overall culture of I don't want to call it culture, but listen, Florida State shot themselves in the foot a lot last year. I don't know. I mean, do you think Odell lets that stuff slide in individual drills? And culture is just such a cop-out to me, I think, to a certain degree.
I'm glad you brought up Odell, because that leads to my question. I don't know if you got the graphic that I text you.
Let me see. Probably not. I don't think we don't get graphic text. We just get maybe we do. Maybe we do. Nope. Look at this. Okay.
Oh, let's see it.
Hold on, man. Hold on. This is some random person.
In reference to what Gator Kirk asked about LaDainian Webb, he did post a picture, I think yesterday, of his associate's degree from like Jones County College or community college. So he should be all good to go.
Okay. All right. I got your graphic pulled up, Joe. It's Joe. I'm sorry. No, it's not Joe. It's Jay. I apologize. Joe was on earlier. Jay from Daytona is on the phone with us. Hey, man, you people, everyone doesn't realize all the things I'm doing right now. It's a lot of what people do. So what's your point here, Jay? We got the top 5 remaining defensive tackles.
Got to get you a Red Bull. Okay. A lot of people have been asking that question about Odell. Now, you see that graphic with the defensive tackles, I guess the best guys remaining. And you don't see our name as one of the schools for either of those guys.
Well, real quick though, Jay, on some of these guys, it shows the logos of the schools, but then it says 3 more, 1 more, 7 more. So possibly Florida State could be one of those other more.
But they're not in the top 3, it wouldn't look like.
As we know the rule, if you're not in the top 4 or 5, then don't even waste your time.
I will not stand for any slander on Odell Haggins. You get me.
Let him make the point, though. I want to hear the point.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, like, in addition to the problems we have with, the lack of pass rush, do you guys think those whispers are going to continue to become louder, in the next, year or two?
Man, I don't like right now. You would say I know that the cupboard isn't exactly full behind them, but right now the strength of the team, or at least the defense, you'd say is probably the interior. I mean, Durden and Marvin Wilson are NFL players. Now, there aren't guys coming up behind them necessarily that we know about, but also, I mean, as good. I've made this point, but as good as Odell is a position coach, and I know you can look at some of those graphics for the people that didn't see. Like, one of the kids had Rutgers, another kid had like Kentucky, Arizona State, and somebody else. Alabama. But when you look like Florida State's looked the last 3 years, we'll see where these kids land. Like if Kentucky starts landing 5-star defensive tackles that aren't from the state of Kentucky, that'll be really surprising. But right now, Florida State just can't get in on that. Who was that kid you were just showing, Aslan?
Mason Smith from the same school as Ja'Kai Douglas, who actually has Florida State Rivals has him listed with a medium interest. The only place he's visited is Alabama officially. So there is that.
I mean, I think we just know right now that if you're that, me personally, that kid, I wouldn't expect somebody that's a 6.1 in the Rivals database that's deciding between maybe Alabama and Florida State. It's going to be hard for Odell to pull that off. I don't know that means he can't do it anymore. I still think he can coach, and I still think he's if Norvell can get this thing going again, I think they're going to be just fine at defensive tackle. But like, I can't remember. I don't think it was Jay. It was somebody else that brought this up maybe a week or two ago about like, there was that void in the lost decade where, the defensive tackles went from Broderick Bunkley and Darnell Dockett to Kendrick Stewart and Bud Thacker. And it wasn't like Odell forgot how to coach or forgot how to recruit. It's just Florida State became an unappealing place. And when you're a defensive tackle, I would think especially because you don't get a lot of glory. You at least want to go win games if you're going to be banged on and sway. It's not like you're a skill guy. So I just think it's hard when you go 18-20 in 3 years to recruit elite talent in the interior. But I think once Florida State gets back to where it should be, as long as Odell hasn't retired yet, I think that Odell could do the job. But I get it, man. I get the frustration of a school that's produced as many NFL talent, many NFL linemen as Florida State, who has 2 really good ones this year, 3 really if you count Cooper. That they're not in on bigger guys, and they haven't signed bigger guys recently. I mean, I get that frustration.
Last point, real quick, and then I'll let you guys free up the lines for you. First of all, Corey, take it easy on Bud Thacker. He's from DeLand. He's a local guy. I've heard you reference him a few times. Take it easy.
I know, and I don't mean to be. I don't know why he becomes like the symbol of the lost decade defense for me. He shouldn't. He played hard. Him and Kendrick Stewart. Kendrick Stewart can do backflips for crying out loud. But yeah, it's just like the Corey Mangum. It's Corey Mangum for some people. For others, it's Bud Thacker. For me anyway, that's the name that always comes to mind. And I apologize to Bud Thacker. I need to come up with somebody else.
But it's so crazy. It's like an inside-out thing because during that time, if I recall, we had pretty good defensive ends. So it's like we never can have, the interior and the exterior at the same time. It's like either one or the other. So.
Yeah, no, I got you. I don't know what Aslan's got on the screen right now. I think it's an old.
It's Bud Thacker at Media Day, man. Like when he started going WWF, like, give me the microphone. What do you want me to lift? I'll do it.
Yep.
Wow.
He wants 385. He'll
Give him 385. Give him 385. He wants it.
Yeah, didn't quite translate onto the football field with a lot of tackles for loss or anything.
All right, this is the last point from Jay in Daytona. Follow, my friend.
Last point. I don't know if you got that other graphic, but Corey, you were talking about kids choosing Florida State and Arizona State and those schools. I sent Aslan another graphic that had the top 10 quarterbacks. I think it was in the ACC. And I know how you kind of
top 10 quarterbacks in the nation, Jay. Top 10 quarterbacks in the nation. But I don't know who this person is that made the list, so I don't want to give him clout.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Sam Howell is number 4. We know how you feel about Sam Howell, Corey, and kind of how it shifted. And Chubba Purdy's brother is like number 7. Of course, Trevor is number 1. And Chubba Purdy's brother is pretty good. I saw him play last year. So hopefully we got something there with Chubba. And, congrats to Sam being number 4 nationally on that list. That's a pretty good look.
Man, the numbers that Howell put up last year were just ridiculous. Just unbelievable. Like, I only saw North Carolina probably a couple of games. And one of them was Clemson, where he wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible. And he was pretty darn good. And they almost won that game for them. Yeah, man, that was I just wonder how the whole thing would – how much different this whole place would feel if Sam Howell had come to Florida State. Would it have made a difference at all?
The reason I sent that graphic to you, Aslan, was because I don't think it's just about like Odell or the position coach. It's about the whole program. And, credit to Mac Brown putting together a good staff of Dre Bly and the nutrition people and trainers.
Tim Brewster.
And I think that's what's been missing with us, the organization as a whole, because we just can't rely on an Odell or a head coach. Like, everybody in the organization makes a good team. So I'll just leave you guys with that.
Good insight, Jay.
Agree with that or not?
Good insight.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, buddy.
All right, go Noles.
That's right.
Yeah, I think we hope that Norvell's going to turn this thing. I mean, it's just too early to after 2 years of Willie and the last year of Jimbo, it's just too early to start, making judgments on what he's doing on the recruiting trail. It's just too early. And man, it's, Odell has been here for 30 years or however long it's been. But, all these kids, they care about the direction of the program and the head coach. And now maybe, I see Bubba saying that Odell is too comfortable. Odell's not – it's just not – there's no chance in the world that Mike Norvell comes in and his first act as the head coach is, guys, I'm going to fire Odell Higgins. That's not happening. So I just think Odell's here for a while. Hopefully they'll become a better program.
Welcome on in to Wake Up Warchant Live. Who do we got on the phone line?
It's Jeremy. How you guys doing?
Good, Jeremy.
Jeremy.
What's up?
How you doing, my friends? Hope all's well with you guys. First off, I want to say thank you for the draft the other night. I had a blast being in it.
Good job.
If you could do it again, would you do anything differently?
Oh, the draft.
As far as who you picked?
Man, there was somebody.
Honestly, I think I feel like I had the perfect team. So maybe probably not. Maybe it would have gone O-line just a little touch quicker. But I think other than that, I was really happy. Like, people poo-pooed my wide receivers, but it was Dawsey and Tamari and Terry. Man, I'm telling you guys, Tamarian's 1,200 yards receiving last year with those guys throwing to him and that offensive line. Come on, that guy's legit. Probably one of the 5 or 6 most talented receivers in Florida State history. So I'm not down on that, my wide receivers at all. What about you, Aslan? Was it teaming up with Ira? Was that your biggest mistake?
No, man. Poor Ira got stuck with me because I didn't do a whole lot of research. I just wanted to get the darn thing over with. I feel like we could have maybe scooped up Warwick Dunn as well, maybe on the way back down. Because we went Dalvin and Dion because we snaked at the bottom of it. And then I forgot where we went on the way back down. There was, and I'm trying to look at the teams right now, which is on the screen, which doesn't help the folks that are listening to this or Jeremy necessarily who's calling in. But yeah, there was only one time where somebody drafted a guy right before us, or that was like, oh man, I wanted him, or right after us, and I was like, oh, I totally forgot that guy was around. Trey Thomas was a really good pick that you guys made. That was probably your best value pick, I think.
Yeah, that dude was in the league for like 11 years. It was a 12 or 14 pick and was really good, an all-pro, maybe a couple seasons.
Yeah. So, Jeremy, who do you think had the best team, Jeremy?
Oh, the Fins.
Fins. All right, look at that.
Well, that's because Jeremy picked half of them.
I got Walter Jones.
You did.
You did get Walter Jones, and then there was Marvin Jones too, right? Didn't they get Marvin?
They did.
Yes.
They did. And
Yeah. The Amp Lee and Greg Jones, I think we could do better in a back. I think the Warwick Dunn, Cam Akers backfields, and Sammy and Leon's a good backfield, and then Dalvin and Greg. Yeah. That offensive line, though, is legit with Walter Jones and Trey Jackson, and yeah.
Hot Rod Johnson. Yep. All right, Jeremy. I have nothing interesting to ask you, but we do appreciate you calling in, man.
No problem. Everyone, please remember to rate and review Warchant, Wake Up Warchant with a 5-star rating, and support your local Zaxby's.
That is right.
No, thanks, Jeremy.
Good work. Appreciate you, man.
He should no.
Yeah, let's see here. I was gonna read this text message, but boom, somebody else is called. Let me see if I feel like this number looks familiar. Did we take this call? I feel like we already took a call from this number, but whatever. Stop talking, Aslan. Welcome on in to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good. What's going on? Who is this?
Hey guys, this is MCATDT, Mike from Ocala, and I've actually got a couple of questions. The first one is about Zaxby's, matter of fact, and do you guys like the fried white cheddar bites that Zaxby's has?
Did he ask if we like them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Are you kidding? Do you like them? You better.
Yeah, personally, I think it's it's probably the top 2-3 things on the menu for me. It's like I can't go there and not get the fried white cheddar bites. It just sets off every other entree that they have. To me, I think the fried white cheddar bites are better than the French fries, in my opinion. But that's just me, okay? All right, and next, I just had a comment. Actually, I just want to go back to the 2017 season, since we're really having this huge debate on who's going to be the next year's starting quarterback between Blackman, Chubba Purdy, Travis, or Tate Rodemaker. And I feel like, we forget how close we were to really being a 10, possibly 11 win team in 2017. There's 2 losses we had in there that were just bad, coming from Alabama. We knew that was gone. And then Boston College, that was also a bad game. But the other 4 of those 6 losses were really close. And Blackman was starting and had a bunch of teams on the ropes. Clemson, we had them on the ropes in the 4th quarter with a chance to take the lead. NC State, that was a close loss. We had a fumble there at the end. And who was it? Louisville, we got the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Lamar Jackson, on the ropes at home. That was a 3-point loss. And then there was Miami. If their quarterback didn't decide to play like Joe Montana the last 5 minutes, then we'd probably come away with that win. So, like, and obviously the elite quarterbacks make those plays and win those games for us. But still, like, I just sometimes feel like Blackman doesn't always get as much credit as he deserves, because we were close to really being 10, 11 wins, including the bowl game win that season. And, like, I think we're just having a totally different conversation. And I know it's a woulda, coulda, shoulda, but it's like,
it's fair. It's a fair observation.
I'm personally a Blackman supporter.
Right.
I mean, and yes, the Arizona State game was bad. Okay, that was bad. But still, in that game, we had a chance to win the game. Yeah. We had the ball last with a chance to win. As bad as he played, we still had a chance to win. It just showed you how much better really we were than Arizona State, and they really didn't have a chance. And really, like, we should have beaten them by 17 points or more, in my opinion. Like, it was unbelievable that we didn't pull that one off. But, okay, so
okay, now we're getting to the point. All right, here we go. Ready for it.
Yeah. I just feel like Blackman's got to get, some more credit. And Trevor Purdy and the other guys, I'm sure they're good. But, they're obviously not tested yet, and not having a spring. I just feel like it puts Blackman in the driver's seat. It's at this point, it's his job to lose. Like, whenever they come back and actually do have camps and practices, Blackman's probably going to be getting most of the first team reps, just because the other guys, like, you just don't know what they're going to do yet. Like, Trevor Purdy is from Arizona. I'm not exactly sure how good the prep football is in Arizona compared to a Trevor Lawrence who came from the state of Georgia.
That's right.
An outstanding freshman,
That's right. And Deshaun Watson from the great state of Georgia as well.
Exactly, and Deshaun Watson. So like, he's a true freshman, but how many amazing true freshmen have we seen in college football over this past decade? Of course.
Well, Chuba's brother did it at Iowa State, and I know we can poo-poo Iowa State, but he put up big yards as a true freshman, and then was really good as a sophomore. And I think the thing with Blackman, you have to remember 2 points. Number one, he was pretty darn good at the end of his freshman season. He was also being coached by Jimbo Fisher. He's not coached by Jimbo Fisher anymore, and he's 3 years removed from it. Now, I think Dillingham and Norvell are good coaches, but is he so far gone? Because you saw him at the end of that Sun Bowl. That kid looked like it was harder to play football. So can he bounce back from the valleys, the pits and the valleys of the last 3 years to have enough confidence to be a starting quarterback for a good football team? If he can do that, then yeah, he really has a shot. But sometimes you lose your confidence and it's gone. And he had confidence at the end of his freshman season. And he was also coached by the QB whisperer. Well, that dude's off in College Station now. And then, number two, I don't know. I don't think he'll be getting all the first team reps. In fact, I can promise you that. They are not. No coaching staff right now. This coaching staff isn't going into this season thinking, yeah, Blackman's our guy. They're not saying he isn't, but I think it's going to be an open and honest, legit competition between at least 3 guys for that starting quarterback spot. He might win it. He's got a leg up.
Thanks for the call. We're getting a lot of feedback. It sounds like you're in the wind tunnel, so this still is going to go as a podcast, so I'm going to let you go. But thanks for the call. We do appreciate it. It's good for thought, man. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Could you hear me through the wind tunnel, Aslan?
I mean, kind of, sure. I'm like, I'm going to start raising my hand, Corey, at you, and like something bad is going on.
Do I need to say all that again?
No, I mean, people live. It wasn't the best stuff you've ever said. It's fine.
What? It was really good. I thought.
What was this? All right, here's the 3-minute preamble, and I'm going to get to my point. I mean, what is the value of a spring missed? Or not? I mean, there's a value in missing the spring, but in terms of like what James Blackman, I mean, I guess he's been in front of the coaching staff more. I mean, they've seen the way he's carried himself for 3 practices. I guess obviously tour of duty. But yeah, I don't know how much sort of leg up extra credit any of those guys, him, Tate, or Jordan, really have over a guy like Chubb. And again, man, I'm probably gone overboard with hyping him up, but I mean, Hank Bachmeier did enough to beat Florida State in week 1. Now, he had a spring as a true freshman. Chubba won't, but none of the guys in front of him have either. So I do think there's a pretty clean slate starting from scratch for all those guys. But that's just me.
Yeah, I do think it's a completely even and open competition. How about, by the way, our dude from Russia?
Yeah.
Like I said, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Thanks, Mike. Mike Myrick. Loud. That's good because I didn't want y'all to. I didn't want it to be like one of those things, the Weather Channel guys in a hurricane. I'm sitting up here. It's 140-mile-an-hour winds.
Steve or Cantori or whatever, Jimmy Cantori. Yeah, I can't even say his name because he spelled his name in Russian. But apparently we have a Florida State fan in St. Petersburg, Russia. St. Petersburg, Russia. So that's pretty cool.
So is that a backwards N?
I don't know, man. That's Russian font, Russian letter.
All right.
It's just the way it is. Hey, Abdel's here to crash the party, Corey. False optimism to think that Raekwon Evans and Malik Osborne take big leaps to contribute heavily to the team's success this year. Talking basketball now.
Yeah, no, not with Malik, especially. Malik had some really nice moments last year. There were moments where he only played like 12 or 14 big games he had, like at NC State. I think he was really good. When it comes to Raekwon Evans, I think Scotty Barnes will be the primary ball handler. I might have a similar role as he did last year.
All right. We got another phone call. Welcome on in to Wake Up Warchant Live, presented by Zaxby's, Indescribably Good. Who do we got on the phone line?
Yeah, I just want to place my vote for Team Tamiami.
My man.
Clearly the most dominant team in that draft. I mean, Corey's sitting there talking about his receivers. They literally would. I don't know if they'd get 100 yards of offense against Team Tamiami. And so I'm a little tired. I'm a little tired of what's transpired here over the last 4 or 5 days. We know who won that draft.
I agree, caller. I agree. Where are you calling in from?
At Tallahassee.
There we go. It's our own Irish show fellow, managing editor of warchant.com, calling us in here. Have we done anything bad? Are you here to give us any information to clarify and correct us?
I listened to a little Wake Up Warchant on Monday, and I got to hear Corey crowing about his team. And Aslan, I'd like to see a little more ardent defense for Team Tamiami. And then I turn on this, and here we go again. And it's like, hey, man, you control the airwaves. You get to put out the message, Mr. Clark. But the reality is defense wins. And the voting is so skewed, I'm filing a protest. Because of the way that graphic looks, all of our best players, our Hall of Fame defense is all at the bottom right corner, so nobody could see it.
Yeah.
I appreciate this. I appreciate the sentiment. Hey, I appreciate the engagement. Just that you're calling, that you're watching the show. But I just did a quick recap of my team, and I can't even see the bottom 3. But we've got 14 first-rounders on our team. How many you got? It looks like you got about 3. So
we were supposed to they're at their peak powers in Tallahassee. We weren't supposed to account their college or their NFL career, Corey.
No, we're not accounting for the NFL career because Cam Irving hasn't had a great NFL career, but he was a very good college offensive lineman. My man Menelik, he might have won the Outland if he'd have stayed another year. I mean, you look at Derek Gibson, Xavier Rhodes, Jalen Ramsey. I dare say, what's y'all's defense? Let me look and see what. Oh, never mind. No, okay. Well, y'all won the defensive backfield. Yeah, I forgot y'all had Dion and Tebow.
and our defensive line is incredible, and our backfield is all time greats. I'm gonna open the line. I'm not gonna dominate your guys' caller line, but I just felt like I needed to step up a little bit because Aslan, I'm a little disappointed.
Sorry,
a little bit more ardent defense.
It's you know how it is talking with Corey. It's the path of least resistance, man. And the more you push back, the longer the argument drags on. And I
mean, there's just no way you can look at those 2 defensive lines and think yours is better than ours. That's craziness.
All right, I'm out.
Got him. See you, Ira. You should have had to ask them to weigh in on the Doak Campbell thing.
Maybe next time.
Call right back if you want to weigh in on the Doak Campbell name change.
We'll do that on the happy hour Friday. There'll be a recruiting chat tomorrow, folks, but it won't be here. It'll be over on warchant.com. Use the promo code warchant30. Post your questions for Michael Langston on the PRB Premium recruiting board. What's all this about? I don't know. Is Luke spreading rumors here? Is it worrisome to you that 3 freshmen transfer from the baseball program? When did this happen?
Who knows? It's hard. Baseball, no, that happens a lot. It really does. I'm not making excuses. That's just every whatever that would be, October, maybe September. I'll click on the bio. I'll click on the baseball roster to see how many guys have left over the summer. That's just the nature of that sport. It always kind of has been. There's 32 guys on a team. And like, speaking as a dad, if Brady Clark wasn't playing a whole lot at Florida State, which, I mean, let's be honest, he'll probably be the Friday night guy as a freshman. And when he's not pitching, he's going to be playing shortstop and batting third. But if that doesn't happen, he might bounce and go somewhere. So easy to transfer in baseball.
All right, let's take another phone call here. Welcome on in to Wake Up Warchant Live, presented by Zaxby's, Indescribably Good. Who do we got on the phone line? Chad. Where are you from, Chad?
Yes. I'm from South Carolina, but I live in New Mexico now.
Ooh. All right, where are
We're
you?
in New Mexico. Where do you live in New Mexico?
Santa Fe.
Okay.
Oh, all right, nice.
Beautiful out there. How do you like it?
It's no humidity, so it's different. I'm always cool because I'm used to humidity.
Yeah, man. All right. What's on your mind, Chad, out there in New Mexico? Did you make it to the Sun Bowl? Were you out there with us in El Paso?
No, I was still in South Carolina at that point. I just moved here and not long ago. Well, no, I didn't make it.
Oh, that's fine. You didn't miss much. I think you know that.
I know. So, I watched it on TV though, so yeah.
What's on your mind, Chad?
I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and they had an interview with DeMarcus Walker, and he mentioned that he was trying to get lobby for Pruitt to become the new head coach instead of Taggart. And I also remember Jalen Ramsey kind of lobbying for him. My question is, with his the way Pruitt left, do you think he burned the bridges why they really didn't consider him instead of Taggart?
With Pruitt, no. I think the bridges that may have been burned, if there were any, I don't think it was with like Coburn necessarily, or the person that would be making the hire for a new head coach. I think if they would have thought he was the right person for the job, they would have hired him. I don't think. I mean, it wasn't. I don't think people were doing cartwheels when Jeremy Pruitt left. They weren't excited about it, but I don't think the blood was that bad and the well was that tainted that he couldn't have come back if they thought he was the best candidate for the job.
Okay. I figured because the way he left, like, no, like a bad prom date. Burn me you again.
I never even remember Pruitt being a name out there. I mean, Willie was the name, man. He was. I mean, for better or worse. I mean, when you go back and look at it, hindsight's 20/20. But at that point, guy who'd done what he did at USF and flipped Oregon to a certain degree, and we thought they was going to bring those great coordinators in with them. That it seemed like a good hire. I probably would have, if you'd have given me Taggart or Pruitt in 2018, I probably would have taken Taggart. I mean, so
yeah, I think I probably would have too. Just Pruitt. I know Pruitt had gone to Georgia, and I know there was some infighting on that staff with Mark Richt.
Yeah,
and then he just, he never struck me as a guy that like enjoyed being in front of people. I mean, I think he's a great defensive mind, but he never struck me as a guy that was like, I don't even know how to say it, like the leader of men, or a guy that you want to have a coach's show with and talk to for an hour every week. That didn't seem to be anything that was of interest to him. And I know at Tennessee, he struggled with that initially, saying some things about the fans and not showing up for their spring game and blah, blah, blah. But, they were better last year, I think. I think they started the season.
Second half of the season.
Second half of the season, they showed some improvement. And I know they're killing it on the recruiting trail. So he's obviously done something right there. And we know he can coach defense for sure. He is the reason that DeMarcus Walker and Jalen Ramsey came to Florida State, like single-handedly. Like he flipped DeMarcus Walker the night of the national championship game where Alabama was playing the national championship game. Florida State hired Pruitt, And then I think 30 minutes later, DeMarcus Walker was committing to Florida State. And then I think he's the reason Jalen came to Tallahassee instead of going to Southern Cal.
You're correct. And I used to work in road in nuclear power plants, and that's how I came out to New Mexico to work for the government now. And I remember the first year that he was there in Tennessee. There was a cutout of Pruitt, and somebody drew a mustache, and another was cut out. Somebody bent his head, so the fans were not enamored with him his first season either.
Yeah. No, he did not impress them much that first season. But I think they're on board now. We'll see what the team ends up looking like in 2020. But yeah, the way he's recruiting and the way they finished at 19, I think they're on board.
All right, Chad. Thanks for the call, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it's 4:57 out there, I think. Mountain
Correct.
time.
I think they're mountain time.
Yeah, that's right.
He said he works at a nuclear power plant?
I think that's what he said. Yeah.
Homer Simpson.
Yeah. Are you ready for a solution to the stadium, possibly, Corey?
Sure, buddy. Sure.
Fiddle Griddle says Corey Clark Field.
I think so, but that doesn't really solve the stadium issue. Are we going to call it Bobby Bowden Stadium?
Let's see here. Luke Elmore says Deckerhoff Field, Bobby Bowden Stadium.
That's probably not going to. That's not going to happen. He's a Gator. He's a Florida grad. Come on. They'll name the press box after Deckerhoff. I would almost certainly when he retires. I jokingly put on Twitter yesterday that it could be Mickey Andrews Stadium. They could make it Mickey Andrews Field at Bobby Bowden Stadium if they're going to change it. Those two men did much more for Florida State football than Doak Campbell did. But still, we'll see.
How many of the people that are like, whatever, change it, just bid it out to the highest bidder, how many of those people do you think are the same folks who ripped and roasted Louisville when they were Papa John Stadium? I feel like that was really taboo, like corporate naming rights for your college stadium. Like, oh, how low rent, how poor-blooded of you to have to go that route to help fund your thing. Now we're like, oh, yeah, come on. Whoever wants it, bring it on, highest bidder. And I'm like, well, I think you were making fun of people.
Well, and how about that? Like, it's not called Papa John Stadium anymore.
It's not.
If you name something after someone, eventually you're going to have to tear the name down because the person's going to end up being somebody you don't want to be associated with. I feel like that's what we're seeing in this country. Like, even a pizza chain isn't safe. But maybe, the Spanx.
Whoever, did Mr. Rogers go to a major college? Like, if you name your stadium after Mr. Rogers, you're probably okay. That one, right? You can write that one in Sharpie, chisel it in stone. You'll be all right.
He's from Pittsburgh, so maybe he went to like Duquesne.
Okay. Hey, I have the internet at my fingers. Maybe I should look it up.
You think Mr. Rogers had to go to college, right? I wonder if he went to a fraternity.
What fraternity rush? He went to Rollins College. Isn't Rollins College in Florida? Yeah. He was born in Latrobe, which is near Pittsburgh. Bachelor's degree in music from Rollins College. This is according to Wikipedia.
Is that in Tampa?
And then he went to Pittsburgh Theological Seminary as well.
Oh, how's their football team? Do they have a stadium?
I don't know. His middle name was McFeely. That's amazing.
McFeely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably had an interesting upbringing. That's cool. I'm glad that we got to dispense some knowledge. It's not just Florida State football on this show. We'll talk about Fred Rogers. Did you see the Tom Hanks movie?
No, I did not see it. Did you?
Yeah, I saw it with Brady in the theater, and he cried like a baby.
Yeah, good. Did you? Did you cry at all or no? I mean, you can't.
I can't cry tears, so no. I told him to act like a man and shut up. You're embarrassing me in front of the other people in the theater.
There we go. My man.
It's a kind of an uplifting movie, but there is some, they got to add some drama. So the two main characters are, the one guy's mad at Mr. Rogers about something and is yelling at him. And Brady just got really emotional about it. He's like, I want to leave. I don't want to watch this movie anymore.
We got a text message here that I was going to read earlier from Tom in Ocala. Corey, would Coach Bowden still kick Jared Jones off the team if we would have known it would set the football team back 10 years?
So I don't know. I know we talked about this recently about him going to those girls' apartment and cooking up their whole kit, basically taking everything out of the fridge and cooking himself a feast. Literally like 12 hot dogs and put a pizza in the oven. I mean, just nuts. At like 4:30 in the morning. I don't know if that was the only transgression, though. He might have been a kid that just kept proving over and over that he really didn't want to be a quarterback. So yeah, I'm not sure. If he knew that it was good, but we don't. I mean, that's easy to say. Yeah, if Jared Jones was going to be a Heisman winner, then maybe no, you don't go because he kept Janikowski on the team.
What happened to Jared Jones? Like Jared Jones didn't go and flourish anywhere. It wasn't like you know he pulled a Justin Fields and took a team to the playoff. You want to talk about that, Corey? Can I get some beers in you? Can I get a couple Michelob Ultras in you and get your real thoughts on Justin Fields, Kirby Smart letting him just leave? How does that happen? That's like the unforgivable sin.
And then he did it for Jake Fromm, the great Jake Fromm. And the whole reasoning was, at least among Georgia fans, was okay. Yeah, it sucks that Fields is leaving, but at least Fromm will stay till he's a senior and be a leader and a captain and all that. And no, that didn't happen.
Mark Adamchek, I think that's the way you pronounce it. What is your depth chart at running back, guys?
Mine right now, with Anthony Grant no longer a part of the team, is Corbin, Kalen, and then I always want to say Toafili. Is it Toafili or Toafili? Lawrence Toafili?
I say Feely. Like
okay, Toafili.
Feely.
Because for the people that don't know, when I think it was the first recruiting press conference for the first signing day, I asked Norvell who his first call was. Like when he got the job officially, had taken it, and was now actively wearing garnet polos, who his first call was. What recruit did he call first? And he said it was Toafili. So they must like him a lot, and I think they'll probably at least I think he would have a leg up maybe going into fall practice about that the third spot on the depth chart.
Trying to you went in the early signing period. I'm trying to pull up the actual quote. My depth chart as I pull it, I'm still on the screen. That's good. I'm going Kalen, then I'm going Corbin, then I'm going Deontay Sheffield.
All right.
I like Deontay Sheffield. I think he's a real good player. I think it really was. You're right. He does say it here. I'll pull it up on the screen to pull up the quote. Not that people didn't believe you, but yeah, I believe the first one that he called was Lawrence Toafili. But I had about 6 coaches that got guys calling us. So I think Kenny Dillingham is the one who really gushed about him on sign day. I think when we spoke to him off to the side, that was another guy too, because I think when he was at Auburn, he was working on him. And then he said, I think the first person he called was Lawrence when he got the job. Like, hey man, I'm coming to Tallahassee. So that's a good pick. Yeah, I mean, I think you might be vindicated on that one. I did space out on that when I was making the top 40. I mean, the transfers were fresh in my head, but not the true freshmen. But I don't know. I like the way Deontay Sheffield ran against Arizona State.
Yeah, me too.
Not the 85 Bears, but still, I thought it was quite admirable. Welcome on in to Wake Up Warchant Live, brought to you by Zaxby's. It's really, really flipping good. Who's this?
Aslan, Tony West from Tampa. Tony from Tampa.
Coach Tony, hey, what's up, Coach T?
Hey, man, how are you guys?
Good.
Hey, listen,
good, buddy.
Just calling real quick. MLB made the announcement just a little bit ago, starting on July 24th, and players report on July 1st. So that is going to be the first, I guess, major pro sport that'll be in business, because I'm not sure about the NBA right now. But so wanted to get first your take on that, and then second, your guys' thought on the fact that I'm seeing all these articles about all these players testing positive, at Clemson or Alabama or wherever. And I don't think we're seeing kind of the other side of the story, or the other part of that message, which is it's probably the best place these guys can be, right? I mean, they're getting the best care. They have access to the best care. A lot of these players come from financially, I'll say not as financially affluent situations where they can afford the best health care and or proper quarantine measures. So a lot of these guys are not, that are players, male and female, don't understand, or don't even know that they have COVID. So they're walking around the community potentially being asymptomatic, because it sounds like a lot of these players are asymptomatic that are testing positive. And so putting these players back on campus, not only are they going to receive the best medical care, but obviously if they do test positive, then they're going to be put into the proper quarantine situation. And from my perspective, I think that's the best possible situation for these players, just for the mere fact that, if they're home and they're not in a situation where they can afford to potentially be tested or, figure that whole process out. And then if they are found to be positive, then what happens next, right? And do they get the proper care? Are they properly quarantined? So I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that and how to kind of get that message out more forcefully that this is probably the best possible situation for these young players. And then the last thing is, wanted to get your take on high school football. We've been back since June 14th. We're following all the CDC guidelines, and we're out here, doing conditioning, getting the players acclimated. And so my take on that is we're moving full speed ahead, towards being able to use a football after we get out of phase 2, which is in mid-July, and then moving right into fall camp. And I don't seem to be hearing anything as it relates to high school football. And, wouldn't that be unique if high school football is the only sport that's playing football in the fall as opposed to college, pro, and everything else? And that's it.
All right. Appreciate it, Tony. I'm going to dispatch you off the phone call if that's all right. Did you want to hang on the line, Tony?
That's okay. Yeah. You can patch me off. That's fine.
All right. We appreciate the call. Thanks, man.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah, I think with the first part about everybody testing positive, or so many people testing positive, and it's better for them to be there. I think there's some validity to that. I think the bigger issue, that's obviously the most important issue, is them staying safe and getting tested and knowing if they have it. I don't think they're living their lives any differently in Tallahassee than they would be if they're back home. Back home, it's not like they'd be in a bubble back home. They'd still be going out. They'd still be talking to their friends. They'd still be hanging out with their friends. They've got to be smarter. And when I say they, I really should mean all of us. The numbers just keep going up. Today was another awful day. 30,000 more positive tests in this country. It's starting to go back up again. Testing a bunch, but the numbers are still starting to go back up. Leon County just issued a mask mandate that if you go inside a public a public store, public restaurant, you have to wear a mask. They've mandated that, and if you don't, you're going to get fined. That's going to start happening all over the country probably. But until this hopefully dies back down. But I think I've made this point before. Are these kids at any more risk working out on the Al Dunlap practice fields? Are they more at risk doing that than they would be at home playing Xbox in Palm Beach or Miami or Tampa, wherever their homes are? I certainly don't think so. I think the risk is just as much, or maybe even greater, somewhere else. The problem is if they get infected, you can't play them. So that's where it just gets. I don't know, man. I don't have a good answer to this. I don't have a good answer to any of it. I do like that Major League Baseball is going to start playing. I think that'll be a nice blueprint. There will be some people that test positive, but. We're going to have, I don't know, we're going to have to see what happens when it comes to college football. I think it's up in the air. I still think there's a better than not chance that they play, but the numbers are getting so staggering now back again. It's almost like it was back in early April, that you wonder if people are going to put things on pause, and what does that do? But yes, if you're going to have COVID, or if you're going to be around people that have COVID, and apparently anybody living in the state of Florida will be, you'd rather be around somebody, doctors, trainers that can test you every day, and you'll know every day, instead of just assuming you don't have it. At least now they'll know. And I do like that. I do think that is better for them, and certainly better for their family members, that they're not spreading it to their family members. So that, I don't know that answered the question, but yeah, it's a really dicey, odd time.
If these players, whether it's, LSU's got 30 players self-isolating, some in quarantine, and I think they said a lot of that's tied back to Tigerland, which I guess is probably their nightlife district, I'm assuming, like College Town. If you're going to get it from being at a bar for an hour and a half, I just don't know how you won't transmit it in a 2.5 hour long practice, and then going back into a locker room for 30 minutes. If you're going to transmit it that easily at a bar, I just feel like practice is going to probably be at the same clip. But I guess we have some time to figure out ways maybe around it. I don't know. It's it's a discouraging thing to think about. And, the counter to it, I think I saw Gene posted on the boards, is just, wait till we get to July. This could be a blip. Why try to make rash decisions or try to forecast what things are going to look like in September when you do have this time to think things over. And the counter to that to me is it would be nice if they made some sort of announcement on something, whether it's because we all assume they're going to play the schedule as slated. It'd be nice if they just said, we intend to start the season September 5th as planned. Or if they just came out and said, we're going to play and there's only going to be 10% capacity in the stadium the entire time. There's been no definitive announcements from the universities other than we're going to start practicing on this sort of date. Now, the whole thing is when you have as much time to make a decision, you're supposed to use all that time to make the right decision. So why rush it? But it'd be comforting if they came out and just said something definitively in terms of the direction they're going to go. That's a little bit discouraging to me, but they don't want to put their foot in their mouth. So
yeah, what would be you can have the intent to do something, but on June 23rd, what would that, it would make you maybe understand. We know what their intent is though. Their intent is to play. They will do everything possible to play. So them saying we plan to have a football season, we plan to start on September 5th is something that's, understood, I think. I would like to know how these players got it, how many they transmitted it to, and what were the symptoms. Are they sick? Are they laid up? Did they feel perfectly fine? Did they work out that day and somebody just told them they had it? Did they have symptoms? I think that's the stuff that also matters. And, look, Florida State announced that, I think they announced that you're going to have, all the faculty and all the students are going to have to wear masks when they come back to school. Players, man, you've got every player in this country right now. You probably need to go wear a mask if you don't want to get this. Apparently y'all spread it like, I don't know, foot fungus in a shower or something, man. It's crazy how it takes off on these football teams or any teams really. But, I think that's the reality that we're about to approach here in the next week is that all these local I'm not even trying to say the word.
Municipalities.
There you go. So, sure. I think they're going to start mandating masks, and that's already taken place in Leon County. I think it's going to start taking place all over the state.
Pinellas, Hillsborough, Clearwater, or those cities. They're doing Wednesday starting at 5 p.m.
So I just think that's where we are now, and hopefully that will slow it down. We'll see it go back down, and hopefully they take it seriously because it sure appears that the kids at LSU and the kids at Clemson and the kids at Kansas State and the Phillies and the Lightning didn't take it all that seriously. But did they get it on the ice? Did they get it on a baseball field? Did they get it working out, breathing on each other on a football field or in the locker room? We don't know the answers to it, so it's hard to really make judgments about it. As for high school football, I don't know, man.
I got a buddy who still works in television out in Austin, and he did a story about, the coaches out there getting ready. And on record, they're like, we don't know. They're like, we're flying totally blind. They're like, we're doing the best that we can. I've seen some of the schools out there, some of those ISDs, the interscholastic school district or whatever they go by. They've closed camp for a week or two. So I don't know how full steam ahead.
What kind of access to test are they going to have?
Yeah.
What kind of access is like a high school basketball team going to have to test? Obviously, the Florida State basketball team could probably test every day for 4 straight months. But I don't know and you also got to think about Leonard Hamilton being 71 years old. Stan Jones, I think, just turned 60. Stan, if you haven't, I apologize. So when you have older coaches like that, you got to make sure they're healthy. So they're going to be tested a lot, but I don't know that high schools will have the funding or the capabilities to test, the freshman team, the JV team, the varsity team. A place like Jacksonville Bowls, that's 130 kids. Can you test all them every week, 3 times a week?
Probably not a good example. They probably have the money to be able to do it.
Well, Bowls does, yeah, sure.
Like a public school. But no, I think the point to that maybe comes back to what Tony was saying about being in the best spot possible. At least college kids are around themselves. Yeah. College kids aren't hanging out with 50-year-old mom and 60-year-old.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's better for them to, just the numbers that we see, the young people, it doesn't affect them nearly as negatively as older people. So if a bunch of people are going to get each other sick with this thing, you'd rather them be all 20 years old, I guess. But still, that doesn't mean you have to cough on each other or be mouth to mouth at a bar talking, screaming in each other's ear because you can't hear over the house music. What's your favorite house music, Aslan?
Chemical Brothers. Probably killing
Okay.
Prodigy.
I'm more of a dead mouse guy. You know that. You see my.
I'm a Diplo guy, a little bit Diplo.
Right. Sure.
I mean, let me think. Last thing I asked you on the way out, I retweeted it or whatever. I think I put in the text message chain to you and Ira, and you mentioned. I mean, I've probably taken this thing more seriously than the average bear in terms of fear or what have you. I'm not trying to manufacture. I'm just saying the way I live my life. I'm constantly, if I'm outside, I mean, I hand sanitize when I get out of my car. First thing I do when I get in the car, I wear a mask everywhere I go. But then again, I'm only going into the grocery store. I don't wear a mask when I'm outside working out. But I mean, there has to be, I guess, and I feel I don't want to be irresponsible about it, but I do feel there's going to have to be a point where we do start talking about the data. And I am a pro-science guy. I'm not an anti-science guy. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I don't think this is a hoax. I don't think wearing a mask is going against our constitutional rights. But I mean, there has to eventually maybe be at some point the conversation about the fact that these guys, these athletes, men and women, 18 to 22-year-olds, are at a significantly, advantage when it comes to combating themselves against it. They're not susceptible to it nearly as bad as other parts of the population. So if they're going to be around each other most of the time, and at what point do we kind of say, okay, they'll get it and they should be fine? I mean, I wonder if there'll be a point where do you have to have really intense physicals to where you can find out those underlying conditions that, listen, every year a kid passes out at a football practice, unfortunately, and dies from heat exhaustion or something like that. And it was some sort of underlying factor that we did not know about. It was something they didn't detect. Maybe they can be more thorough in the physicals they run on these student athletes to figure out whether they have the susceptibility. I mean, at some point, though, I guess, or we're going to find out in July where there'll be the conversation that this is the data. They're 99.6%, survival rate when they get this. It really isn't as big of a deal as it is for other parts of the population.
Well, and 99.6 is too high, is too low. I think you're looking at, from the data that I've always read, it's like closer to 99.99. But what I think will have to happen is, say July 10th comes, and there have been 1,200 football players across the country that have tested positive, which isn't out of the realm of possibility the way things are going. But let's say it's 1,000 kids that have tested positive. How many of those kids got seriously ill? 6? 4, 0, 100. If it's 100, you got a problem. If it's 4, man, if most of them are asymptomatic or it feels like a common cold to them, and then they recover just fine, which is something you obviously have to track, then yeah, there's going to have to be discussions made and talks about, okay, look, guys, there's a chance you could contract this. There's 100% chance you're not going to die from it, which I'm not saying that's true, but you just have to look at the data. Right now, we just don't know enough. We have to judge.
Is there going to be a big development, you think, in the next 25 days?
I think when you look specifically at football players and how they got it, somebody's got to put all that together. I hope these schools are talking to each other and explaining how these pockets broke out and how they recovered, how it affected them. There has to be somebody that's looking at all the data of young people in general, and then also even further to specify it to college athletes and what that does to them. And then go from there. That seems like that seems like the most realistic and the most reasonable, because you don't want to put these, if 9 college football players die from COVID while they play a season, well, that would be a tragedy. So you hope that's not on the table. You don't want that to happen. But if the chances of that are, 1 in a gazillion, then, again, I'm not smart enough to talk about this.
I got you.
He asked me about the 94 Florida State team.
Bill Burr nailed it. Bill Burr was like on Joe Rogan's podcast, like, listen, man, he's like, me as a guy without a medical degree, sitting in front of a guy that doesn't have a medical degree, I'm not going to act like we both know more than scientists. So,
yeah.
It was just something.
Hopefully they study the control group that they need to study, which is, people under 22, and very athletic, in good shape, and see what the effects are with them.
All right, we're done. Leave your questions over on the Tribal Council. We'll be back Friday for edition of Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's. It'll be Renegade Express. We'll also have a live happy hour on Friday, and don't forget tomorrow, Wednesday, recruiting chat, Michael Langston for our members. So go over to Warchant, become a member. Promo code Warchant 30. 30 free days to try it out. No money, risk-free, all that good stuff. For Corey and Aslan, thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good